Your first trip to the festival. But beyond that, you're going to go out on a road trip. You're going to go out on much longer journeys from destination to destination, competing in championships, exploring, finding things on the way. And at the end of a road trip, you'll look back to the festival for a big awards party where all the characters in the game, all the drivatars are rewarded for how they've done and the championships they've won.
All right. Now, with the original Forza Horizon, you guys dabbled in a little bit of light storytelling. You had some characters involved there. What's your approach to that this time? How does it compare with that original Forza Horizon?
So Horizon 2 uses drivatar technology that I just mentioned. First launched in Forza 5 last year, and for me, it just changed racing, right? No longer do you have to have fictional drivers with made-up names. Suddenly, your races and your world now in Horizon 2 is filled with real people, your friends, your family, people that you can relate to in the real world. So we've actually found in Horizon 2, we don't need to tell a story. We don't need to have fictional characters to make up the game, because actually the drivatars do all that heavy lifting for us. They're people that you already know. You can relate to the way they drive, the things that they do, and it actually makes the narrative all about you, all about your friends, which I think is much more compelling.
And if it's Turn 10 community manager Brian Ekberg, I know that character is going to drive like a total maniac and is totally going to cut me off at the most inopportune moments of a critical race.
Absolutely. And you know what's really cool for me about drivatar is the way an element of racing games, which maybe hasn't moved on for for many years, suddenly is something you talk about outside the game, right? You and Brian will talk about the things that his drivatar did or your drivatar did. The same thing happens to me. People tweet me about the things my drivatar is doing in races in Forza 5. I think we're going to find that with Horizon 2. You know, these events become water cooler moments.
Mm-hmm. So we had a question here about the soundtrack. I forget who that was, but music, you know, the whole festival was obviously a pretty big part of the original game.
Yeah.
Does the vibe of the overall soundtrack and the licensed song, does that change with the setting, moving from Colorado to Southern Europe, or is it kind of the overall tone going to stay the same?
So we're excited about the music in Horizon 2. I think we did a great job in the first one. More people tweet me about the soundtrack in Horizon 1 than about any other aspect of the game. So our strategy for this game is just to keep doing it more and more right. So the guy who curated the soundtrack in the first one, Rob DeBank, he's this English DJ festival organizer. He's back on board. He's curated the soundtrack for Horizon 2. And we've just given him more room to express himself. So we have twice as many radio stations, more than double the amount of music on disc. So we're actually bringing you more and more music, more diversity. We really hope that you're going to find songs you love, but you're also going to fall in love with new music as well.
So there's this moment that we just saw in the footage here, and it's about 30 seconds past, but you're driving along the road, and your green driving line all of a sudden cuts to the left and into this big open field. It's maybe a vineyard or something like that, but basically it's one of those moments where I was playing for the first time. I was like, wait, this can't be right. This can't be right. What am I doing? I can barely see. I'm in a cockpit view. What's going on here? I'm just smashing into hay bales. But it seems like, you know, getting off the road and kind of taking advantage of the openness of an open world is kind of a focus for you guys, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We wanted to create a truly open world this time. You know, we've taken the view that if there aren't walls or barriers in real life, well, there shouldn't be them barriers or walls in our game, right? We want you to be able to drive on the road. We want you to be able to explore anywhere off the road as well. So what you're talking about, driving through a vineyard, we're in southern Tuscany here, so there's lots of vineyards there, or across crop fields, through forests, over hills. It's a whole new dimension to exploration and driving within Horizon 2. What it means is we've actually got so much more space to fill with cool stuff to do in cars, right? I'm talking about races, I'm talking about non-racing gameplay as well, challenges and secrets and things to discover.
Now, how do you balance those sort of like crazy detours with the fact that quite often you're going to be driving a McLaren P1 or a really, really fancy sports car that was designed to be driven on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout the game, I think there's a risk-reward thing going on there, right? Depending on the car you're in, sometimes it could be faster to stay on the tarmac. You know, if you're in a really high-speed performance car. Sometimes, though, if you're in an off-roader, a Ford Raptor, or some of the really extreme cars we've got in the game, it will pay to go off-road. But ultimately, Horizon, the whole All Up franchise is about having fun, doing things which maybe aren't things you would do in real life, but things which are just crazy fun. And sometimes driving across farmland, you know, through crop fields in a Lamborghini Huracán, it's just crazy fun, and we want you to encourage you to do that.
And we've got about a minute or two left here, but I would be just absolutely trounced by our hardcore racing fans in the audience if I didn't talk to you on some level about just, you know, the physics of the driving model.
Yeah.
Obviously, your connection to Forza Motorsport lends itself to any number of questions about the simulation nature of what you're trying to go for here. The original game, you had a whole bunch of driving assists that you could toggle on to make the game pretty hardcore, but at the same time, you didn't drill down into the really esoteric stuff, gear ratios and all that. What's your approach this time around?